Someone can please lead the invocation prayers.
Hare Krishna, may I do so, please?
Yeah.
Om Anyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Ham Sri Guru Sri Yugapata Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavascha Sri Rupam Sagradam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Tamsa Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakam Vittamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagat Pade Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosturi Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanai Sri Vishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatru Yascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Pratitanam Pavanabhiyo Vaishnavabhiyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming. Quick announcement that this Monday, December 1st, is Gita Jayanti Day, very auspicious day. All should try to join the entire Bhagavad Gita reading on this day at your respective temples, either virtually or in person, whichever way works. So here at the Toronto temple is going to be from around 6 p.m. Will run till 9 p.m. or so, where devotees take turns to read alternatively in English and Sanskrit. All of you should also aim to attend this auspicious Gita Jayanti Bhagavad Gita reading. So today we will first finish Canto 4, Chapter 21 from verse 37 onwards. And then we'll also straddle into Chapter 22, at least the first part. So let's begin with you all explaining one or more striking points, one or more inquiries. You anyway had some verses to find. Anybody found?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So Prabhu, the first question was to find this line, which verse does it connect to? Swa karmana tam abhyaryacha. So this is Bhagavad Gita 18.46. Yataha pravitir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana tam abhyaryacha siddhim vindati manavaha. So the meaning here is swakarmana means whatever work one is doing, and tam abhyaryacha means worship the Supreme Being. So I could correlate that we were discussing when we were doing Bhagavad Gita, that Bhagavad Gita never says that work is worship. Here it says, by your worship, worship the Lord.
By your work, worship the Lord. Yep.
By devotion to the Supreme Lord, translate works into worship. And then we develop a spiritual consciousness in worshipping the Supreme Lord, and we carry that consciousness to our work, and this is how our work becomes spiritualized.
Okay, very good. Rest of you, what did you find? What else was? What did we discuss?
The other question was, you asked where we discussed this before. In Bhagavad Gita, we discussed in chapter 12, where God says in 12.10, if you cannot practice the regulation of Bhakti Yoga, then just to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to perfect stage. And Srila Prabhupada further in this thing, he goes on to say that even if one cannot practice regulative principles, even trying to help such work also will elevate someone. So this is another context which I could recall.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very good. So from the descending ladder of devotion. Okay, very good. What else were we discussing? Something important you remember from when we were discussing worship the Lord with your work? Somebody else? So if you recall, I have Mother Jija's slide on the screen. So this is what Mother Jija had drawn when we were discussing 18.46. And this slide I have used for every batch afterwards to make my discussion easier to explain. How we have the two wheels, we are tied to the two wheels of material and spiritual world. And by doing our prescribed duties, we have to try to overlap these two wheels. For Arjuna, they were already overlapped. At least we can try to bring them closer. Right now, for me, they are far apart. Monday to Friday, I'm doing one task. Weekend, I'm doing another task. So we have to try to overlap material and spiritual duties while doing our prescribed duties. So dovetailing. Anybody refreshed your memory with this?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes,
You
Prabhu.
remember this wheel.
All right. Thank you again, Mother Jija. Okay, you had other words also to look up. Somebody found something?
Prabhu, the 12.10 is the verse for the Bhakti Mishra Karma, no?
So you are correct. But simultaneously, there is also one more verse.
Is it Srimad Bhagavatam 1. Canto 1, chapter 534, Prabhu?
So 1.5.34, I don't know what verse you are referring to. What's the verse or what's the theme of that verse you are referring to?
When all man's activities are dedicated to the service of the Lord, the very activities which cause the perpetual bondage become the destroyer of the tree of work.
Okay. Yeah, you are referring to good verse. Okay. Something else. So read 4.21.34-35 and let's discuss that. Shivangi, you want to read or say something?
I can read, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Mhm.
1 second. Just the translation, Prabhuji.
Correct.
Hare Krishna, text 34. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental and not contaminated by this material world. But although he is concentrated spirit soul without material variety, for the benefit of the conditioned soul, he nevertheless accepts different types of sacrifice performed with various material elements, rituals, and mantras, and offered to the demigods under different means according to the interests and purposes of the performers. Text 35. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is all-pervading, but he is also manifested in different types of bodies which arise from a combination of material nature, time, desires, and occupational duties. Thus, different types of consciousness develop just as fire, which is basically which is always basically the same, blazes in different ways according to the shape and dimension of firewood.
Shivangi, you had something to say also?
Oh, yeah, just these two verses, Prabhuji, I couldn't find, I didn't understand the question. We're supposed to find something similar that matches the theme of these two verses from Bhagavad Gita or
Yeah.
other scriptures.
Yeah. Okay. So what Gopal Prabhu pointed out are also good verses. And if you actually read 9.27 Bhagavad Gita, that whatever you do, offer to the Lord, and that's what 34 is saying, that simply do the sacrifice with your material elements, with your rituals, and whether or not you have bhakti. That's what 9.27 says. And that's what here also the point is being made in 4.21.34. Everybody sees the connection?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, Gopal Prabhu's the descending ladder verse, Bhagavad Gita 12.10 is also correct verse for this. All right. Very good endeavor by everybody. What else did you add? Striking points, inquiries? Shivangi.
There was a question about explaining how Bhakti Yoga diminishes the false appetite for material enjoyment. And upon reading, the answer is that it reduces reduces the qualities of the modes of passion and ignorance, and then it makes the practicer come slowly to the mode of goodness. And then from that point, they would have to go to the mode of pure goodness, where there's
Yeah.
no material contamination at all.
Okay, very good. Correct points. Shalini, Gopal.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, one very important point which we discussed, and that was the question number 2 of the homework, was why doesn't everyone receive same results from their acts? So 2 people might be doing the same kind of activity, but then one might, reap the benefits of fruits, the other one will not. So it's mainly the Supreme Lord is the one who determines the different standards or the results of the activities, Prabhu, ultimately.
Very good. Depends on the mercy of the Lord. Very good. Correct points. Mother Chija wanted to say something.
Prabhuji, the same question. For everything to be successful, we should be favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In spite of having rich parents, children are sometimes not happy. Similarly, in spite of valuable medicine administered by a competent physician, sometimes a person dies, or in spite of having a big safe boat, sometimes a man drowns. So we should have the mercy of the Lord. Prabhuji.
Okay, very good. Any questions? Okay. So we'll continue Canto 4, Chapter 21 from verse 37 onwards. So the recap of where we are is that Prithu Maharaj advises citizens to do Karma Mishra Bhakti. Karma Mishra Bhakti means while doing your karma, try to have the bhakti component more than karma. The rest of this chapter 21 from verse 37 onwards is Pretty straightforward. We'll take a very short time to just read through these verses. So part 4 is verses 37 to 44. Prithu Maharaj establishes the glories of Brahmana and Vaishnavas. Prithu Maharaj glorifies that Brahmana and Vaishnavas and states do not offend Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. By serving the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, the Lord is pleased. So, dear Aditi, able to read verse 37, 38, chapter 21?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I would read on RVd. Text 37. Translation. The Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are personally glorified by their characteristic powers of tolerance, penance, knowledge, and education. By dint of all these spiritual assets, Vaishnavas are more powerful than royalty. It is therefore advised that the princely order not exhibited its material prowess before the two communities and should avoid offending them. Text 38. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ancient, eternal Godhead, who is foremost amongst all great personalities, obtained the opulence of his staunch reputation, which purifies the entire universe by worshipping the lotus feet of those Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
So, straightforward verses that do not offend Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. And verse number 39, 40 describe about serving the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Shivangi, 39, 40 translation.
Text 39. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is everlastingly independent and who exists in everyone's heart, is very pleased with those who follow in his footsteps and engage without reservation in the service of the descendants of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. For he is always dear to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and they are always dear to him. By regular service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, one can clear the dirt from his heart and thus enjoy supreme peace and liberation from material attachment and be satisfied. In this world, there is no fruitive activity superior to serving the Brahmana class, for this can bring pleasure to the demigods, for whom the many sacrifices are recommended. Krishna.
In verse number 40 purport, we'll soon read, it describes that in Kali Yuga, it is very difficult to render service to Brahmanas because demons are taking advantage of Kali Yuga, and these demons have taken birth in Brahmana families. So it's very difficult to distinguish. And therefore, it actually is very difficult to serve, because if you actually try to invite a Brahmana at your home for any ritual also, specifically in India, they are running a business. They want so much money in return, and their list of desires is unlimited. Shivangi, read verse 40 purport.
But in Bhagavad Gita 265, it is said, Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanir asya prajayate. Unless one is self-satisfied, he cannot be free from the miserable conditions of material existence. Therefore, it is essential to render service to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas to achieve the perfection of self-satisfaction. Srila Narottama Das Thakur therefore says, Tandera charana seva bhakti sani vasa janame janame haya e abhilasa. Birth after birth, I desire to serve the lotus feet of the acharyas and live in a society of devotees. A spiritual atmosphere can be maintained only by living in a society of devotees, and by serving the orders of the acharyas. The spiritual master is the best Brahmana. At present, in the age of Kali, it is very difficult to render service to the Brahmana Kula or the Brahmana class. The difficulty, according to the Varaha Purana, is that demons taking advantage of Kali Yuga have taken birth in Brahmana families. Rakshasa Kalim Ashritya Jayante Brahmajonisu, Varaha Purana. In other words, in this age, there are many so-called caste Brahmanas and caste Goswamis who, taking advantage of the Shastra and of the innocence of people in general, claim to be Brahmanas and Vaishnavas by hereditary right. One will not derive any benefit by rendering service to such false Brahmana kulas. One must therefore take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and his associates, and should also render service to them, for such activity will greatly help the neophyte in attaining full satisfaction. This has been very clearly explained by Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura in his explanation of the verse Devasayatmika Buddhir Ekehe Gurunandana. By actually following the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga as recommended by Srila Narottama Das Thakura, one can very quickly come to the transcendental platform of liberation as explained in this verse, Atyanta Shamam. This particular use of the word Anattivilam, without delay, is very significant because simply by serving Brahmanas and Vaishnavas one can get liberation. There is no need to undergo severe penances and austerities. The vivid example of this is Narada Muni himself. In his previous birth, he was simply a maidservant's son, but he got the opportunity to serve exalted Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and thus, in his next life, he not only became liberated, but became famous as the supreme spiritual master of the entire Vaishnava disciplic succession. According to the Vedic system, therefore, it is customarily recommended that after performing a ritualistic ceremony, one should feed the Brahmanas. Thank you.
Very good. Shivangi is naturally reciting all these Sanskrit verses. Yeah. Very good. Any questions, comments, realizations? Shalini, 41 to 44 translations are straightforward.
Hare Krishna, text 41 translation. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ananta, eats through the fire sacrifices offered in the names of the different demigods, he does not take as much pleasure in eating through fire as he does in accepting offerings through the mouths of learned sages and devotees, for then he does not leave the association of devotees. Text 42. In Brahmanical culture, a Brahmana's transcendental position is eternally maintained because the injunctions of the Vedas are accepted with faith, austerity, scriptural conclusions, full sense and mind control, and meditation. In this way, the real goal of life is illuminated, just as one's face is fully reflected in a clear mirror. Text 43. O respectful personalities present here, I beg the blessings of all of you that I may perpetually carry on my crown the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmanas and Vaishnavas until the end of my life. He who can carry such dust on his head is very soon relieved of all reactions which arise from sinful life, and eventually he develops all good and desirable qualities. Text 44. Whoever acquires the Brahmanical qualifications, whose only wealth is good behavior, who is grateful and who takes shelter of experienced persons, gets all the opulence of the world. I therefore wish that the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates be pleased with the Brahmana class, with the cows, and with me. Hare Krishna.
Questions, comments, realizations? Straightforward verses where Prithu Maharaj is glorifying the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, the only reflection I have is in Canto 1, I vividly recollect the life of Narada Muni in his earlier birth, where he was son of the the mother who was serving the Brahmanas, and then he had the opportunity to serve the Brahmanas, and from there, his spiritual progress had advanced to a stage of where he eventually became Narada Muni.
Yeah, very good. Very good, correct correlation as serving the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Very good.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This in 41 translation, it is written in the last line that for then he does not leave the association of devotees. In the reason that why he likes accepting offerings through the mouth of learned sages. I don't understand what it referred to. Like for then he does not leave association of devotees with respect to
Yeah.
what.
So the Lord is always there with his devotees, right? So the he, if you see the he is capital, is referring to the Lord, that the Lord is always in association with his devotees. That's the point being made.
Thank you.
Similarly, the last set of verses are also straightforward. It's part 5, verses 45 to 52. Citizens praise Prithu Maharaj. Mother Jija, 45 to 47 translations.
Hare Krishna. Text 45. The great sage Maitreya said, after hearing King Prithu speak so nicely, all the demigods, the denizens of Pitraloka, the Brahmanas, and the saintly persons present at the meeting congratulated him by expressing their goodwill. Text 46. They all declared that the Vedic conclusion that one can conquer the heavenly planets by the actions of a putra or son was fulfilled, for the most sinful Vena, who had been killed by the curse of the Brahmanas, was now delivered from the darkest region of hellish life by his son Maharaja Prithu. Text 47. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu, who by dint of his sinful activities always defied the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, entered into the darkest region of hellish life, but by the grace of his great son Prahlada Maharaj, he also was delivered and went back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Similarly, the next remaining verses are also straightforward. In verse number 47 purport, it describes that the chief concern of a Vaishnava is to deliver all fallen souls. And Prabhupada quotes the example of Prahlad Maharaj, that Prahlad Maharaj did not ask any benediction for himself, rather asked his father be forgiven, even when his father tried to kill Prahlad Maharaj. So this is the main concern of Vaishnava, to deliver all fallen souls. Abhishek Prabhu, 48 to 52 translations.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, everyone. Text 48. All the saintly Brahmanas thus address Prithu Maharaj: O best of all the warriors, O father of this globe, may you be blessed with a long life, for you have great devotion to the infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all the universe. 49. The audience continued. Dear King Prithu, your reputation is the purest of all, for you are preaching the glories of the most glorified of all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the Brahmanas. Since, due to our great fortune, we have you as our master, we think that we are living directly under the agency of the Lord. 50. Our dear Lord, it is your occupational duty to rule over your citizens. That is not a very wonderful task for a personality like you, who are so affectionate in seeing to the interest of the citizens, because you are full of mercy. That is the greatness of your character. 51. The citizens continued. Today you have opened our eyes and revealed how to cross to the other side of the ocean of darkness. By our past deeds and by the arrangement of superior authority, we are entangled in a network of fruitive activities and have lost sight of the destination of life. Thus we have been wandering within the universe. 52. Dear Lord, you are situated in your pure existential position of goodness. Therefore, you are the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You are glorified by your own prowess, and thus you are maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahminical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya.
Verse number 52 describes the symptom of one who is in goodness. So the symptom is that one is elevated to the platform of goodness when he is satisfied in any condition of life and is without lust and greed. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 14, we have discussed the characteristics of passion. That passion is, I want more and more and more and more. I hanker what I don't have. Because I want all this. I have a car, but I'm looking at my neighbor's car and I want that car or even a better car. Therefore, the symptom of one who is elevated to the platform of goodness is when one is satisfied in any condition of life without lust and greed, because the devotee is simply focused on doing services. No matter what the circumstances, the devotee can always chant Hare Krishna, can always offer worship, offer bhoga to the Lord. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of 4th canto, 21st chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Instructions of Prithu Maharaj. Questions, comments, realizations? All right, chapter 22 is titled Shalini. Gopal, have a question.
No question, Prabhu. Just you are asking reflection. Is a wonderful chapter, a lot of life lessons.
Yeah, very good. Correct point. Yeah. A lot of practical lessons from all the instructions. First, Lord also gave instruction that forgive and serve the citizens. Then Prithu Maharaj is giving instruction to do Karma Mishra Bhakti. And here in chapter 22 will also be instructions from 4 Kumaras. Very good. So chapter 22 is titled Prithu Maharaj's meeting with 4 Kumaras is divided into 4 parts. Part 1, verses 1 to 16. Prithu Maharaj's rule, reception of Kumaras, and inquiries from them. Part 2, verses 17 to 40. Sanat Kumara answers Prithu Maharaj's questions in detail. Part 3, verses 41 to 48. Prithu Maharaj praises the Kumaras. Part 4, verses 49 to 63. Prithu Maharaj's glorious rule, and qualities. Everybody got the parts?
Yes, Prabhu.
So part 1, the first 16 verses are straightforward verses. Verses 1 to 6 describe the exemplary reception of the Kumaras. Chandran Prabhu, verse 1 and 2 translation.
Hare Krishna. Text 1 translation. The great sage Maitreya said, while the citizens were thus praying to the most powerful King Prithu, the 4 Kumaras, who were as bright as the sun, arrived on the spot. Text 2. Seeing the glowing effulgence of the 4 Kumaras, the masters of all mystic power, the king and his associates, who recognized them as they descended from the sky. Hare Krishna.
In the purport, the special power of Kumaras is described that whatever place they go to would immediately become sinless. The 4 Kumaras are described as Siddheshwar, meaning master of all mystic powers. Gopal Prabhu, verse 3 and 4 translations are again straightforward on the eagerness to receive Kumaras.
Hare Krishna. Text 3 translation. Seeing the 4 Kumaras, Prithu Maharaj was greatly anxious to receive them. Therefore, the king, with all his officers, very hastily got up, as anxiously as a conditioned soul whose senses are immediately attracted by the modes of material nature. Text 4. When the great sages accepted their reception according to the instructions of the Shastras and finally took their seats offered by the king, influenced by the glories of the sages, immediately bowed down. Thus he worshipped the 4 Kumaras. Hare Krishna.
Straightforward verses. Now, verse number 5 plus further in verse number 10 describes how to receive a saintly person who comes to one's home, and later on goes on to describe the unfortunate people in the material world also, that having a lot of opulences, but they do not invite saintly people. It describes both sides for comparison. So let's read verse number 5, translation and purport, to understand how to receive a saintly person in our home. Shivangi, verse 5, translation and purport.
Text 5, Hare Krishna. After this, the king took the water which had washed the lotus feet of the Kumaras and sprinkled it over his hair. By such respectful actions, the king, as an exemplary personality, showed how to receive a spiritually advanced personality. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Apani Achari Prabhu Jivera Sikhaya. It is very well known that whatever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught in his life as Acharya, he himself practiced. When he was preaching as a devotee, although he was detected by several Greek personalities to be the incarnation of Krishna, he never agreed to be addressed as an incarnation. Even though one may be an incarnation of Krishna or especially powered by him, he should not advertise that he is an incarnation. People will automatically accept the real truth in due course of time. Prithu Maharaja was the ideal Vaishnava king, therefore he taught others by his personal behavior how to receive and respect saintly persons like the Kumaras. When a saintly person comes to one's home, it is the Vedic custom first to wash his feet with water and then sprinkle this water over the heads of oneself and one's family. Prithu Maharaja did this, for he was an exemplary teacher of the people in general. Krishna.
Anybody remembers a practical execution of what we just discussed here in the purport? Shivangi?
Prabhuji, last time when your Guru visited, you gave us some, when your Guru Maharaj came, you gave us some, the Charnamrit water in water bottles. That's an example. We used to drink it though.
Yeah, and what did I tell you all to do with that Charnamrit?
It told us to mix it with regular water just to stretch it out for longer, like every day when you go to work or something.
Yeah, very good. Correct point. And I'd also said that put one drop on your head and rest you can take as Charnamrit. That's exactly from the scripture right here. Very good. Questions, comments, realizations? So understand, we are not just reading scripture for the sake of reading. We actually try to correlate that what all we do, are we doing it according to scriptures or not? So we try to correlate. Everybody okay with the plan?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
So just to summarize that how to receive a saintly person when he comes to your home. And Puthu Maharaj is explaining by his example that he himself is an ideal Vaishnava king. Therefore, he is teaching by his personal behavior how to receive and respect saintly persons like the Kumaras. So it is customary to first wash his feet with water and sprinkle that water over our head, all over the house, a little bit, and then take his Charnamrit. And Puthu Maharaj did this as an exemplary teacher. If a saintly person goes to the house of any ordinary man, unimportant man, that person becomes glorious because of the blessings he receives. Therefore, householders should invite saintly people to their homes. And we read in the purport that when you invite a saintly person, it's not just the saintly person, but his entourage as well, that he will have his followers together with him. You have to welcome and serve all of them. And every householder, regardless of his economic condition, he can receive saintly guest with great devotion. Offer him drinking water. Drinking water is generally always available. If there is no water, then at least give him good sitting place, even if it is on straw mat. If you don't have straw mat, clean the ground and make it sit on clean place. And if a householder cannot do any of these things because of his condition, you just welcome him with folded hands. Speak pleasing words and welcome, say welcome. Verses 7 to 16, Prithu Maharaj praises the Kumaras and inquires from them. Mother Jija, 7, 8, 9 translations.
Hare Krishna. Text 7. King Prithu spoke, "My dear great sages, auspiciousness personified, it is very difficult for even the mystic yogis to see you. In Indeed, you are very rarely seen. I do not know what kind of pious activity I performed for you to grace me, but appearing before me without difficulty. Text 8. Any person upon whom the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are pleased can achieve anything which is very rare to obtain in this world as well as after death. Not only that, but one also receives the favor of the auspicious Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu who accompany the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Text 9. Prithu Maharaj continued, although you are traveling in all planetary systems, people cannot know you, just as they cannot know the super soul, although he is within everyone's heart as the witness of everything. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot understand the super soul. Hare Krishna.
So Prithu Maharaj is explaining it is rare to get darshan of saintly people and it is rare to understand them. So the verses we read were straightforward. In continuation of our earlier discussion in verse number 5 on how to receive saintly person in one's homes, verse number 10 describes the fortunate householders who give worthy reception to saintly people. And then a comparison is done in verse number 11, where verse 11 describes the unfortunate householders who, in spite being rich, do not welcome saintly persons in their homes. Abhishek Prabhu, 10 and 11 translations.
Hare Krishna. Verse 10. A person who is not very rich is attached to family becomes highly glorified when saintly persons are present in his home. The master and servants who are engaged in offering the exalted visitors water, a sitting place, and paraphernalia for reception are glorified, and the home itself is glorified. Text 11. On the contrary, even though full of all opulence and material prosperity, any householder's house where the devotees of the Lord are never allowed to come in, and where there is no water for washing their feet, is to be considered a tree in which all venomous serpents live.
Questions, comments, realizations so far? Verse number 12 describes why the Kumaras stayed as strict brahmacharis. Chandran Prabhu, verse 12, translation and purport.
Hare Krishna. Maharaja Prithu offered his welcome to the four Kumaras, addressing them as the best of the Brahmanas. He welcomed them, saying, from the beginning of your birth, you strictly observed the vows of celibacy, and although you are experienced in the path of liberation, you are keeping yourselves just like small children. Purport. The specific importance of the Kumaras is that they were brahmacharis, living in the life of celibacy from birth. They kept themselves as small children, about 4 or 5 years old, because by growing into youth, one's senses sometimes become disturbed and celibacy becomes difficult. The Kumaras, therefore, purposefully remain children because in a child's life, the senses are never disturbed by sex. This is the significance of the life of the Kumaras. And as such, Maharaja Prithu addressed them as the best of the Brahmanas, not only where the Kumaras born of the best Brahmana, Lord Brahma, but they are addressed herein as Vijay Srishta, the best of the Brahmanas. An account of their being Vaishnavas also, as we have already explained, they have their sampradaya, disciplic successor, and even to date, the sampradayas is being maintained and is known as the Nimbark Sampradaya. Out of the four sampradayas of the Vaishnava Acharyas, the Nimbarka Sampradaya is one. Maharaja Prathu specifically appreciated the position of the Kumaras because they maintained the Brahmacharya from the very beginning of their birth. Maharaja Prathu, however, expressed his great appreciation of Vaishnavism by addressing the Kumaras as Vaishnava Sista. In other words, everyone should offer respect to Vaishnava without considering his source of birth. Vaishnava Jati Bhuti. No one should consider a Vaishnava in terms of birth. The Vaishnava is always the best of the Brahmanas, and as such, one should offer all respects to a Vaishnava, not only as a Brahmana, but as the best of the Brahmanas. Hare Krishna.
So why did the Kumaras keep themselves as small children? Is living a life of celibacy is the important point, that they kept themselves as children for about 4 or 5 years of age, because by growing into youth, one's senses sometimes become disturbed, and then celibacy becomes difficult. The Kumaras therefore deliberately remained children, because in a child's body, the senses are never disturbed by sex desire. And this is the significance of the life of Kumaras, which Maharaj Prithu is addressing, that therefore they are the best of Brahmanas. Shalini Kupal.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So Prabhu, I just had a question. So this Nimbarka Sampradaya of the four Kumaras, are there people in India who follow this?
So the other three sampradayas from the four official sampradaya, they exist in material world. I have not heard about them on this earth. They are there in material world somewhere, some other planet, some other universe. But I have not heard of them. So for Rudra Sampradaya also, or for Sri Sampradaya also, I one time on the street while we were doing book distribution, there were a group of these devotees, they claimed themselves to be from the Sri Sampradaya, but they were holding a burger in their hand. So I was like, well, how are you from the Sri Sampradaya if you are holding a burger? And I don't know whether it was vegetarian or non-vegetarian. I don't even know that part. So I have not seen the other three sampradayas to be in that much being flourished on this earth. Yes, they are official sampradayas. They are definitely present in material world somewhere. I've just not experienced on this earth. Shalini.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Now, Prithu Maharaj talks about the good fortune for everyone, but he does not talk about the welfare of Kumaras. Let's read to understand why. Shalini, 13, translation and purport.
Hare Krishna. Text 13, translation. Prithu Maharaj inquired from the sages about persons entangled in this dangerous material existence because of their previous actions. Could such persons, whose only aim is sense gratification, be blessed with any good fortune? Purport. Maharaja Prithu did not ask the Kumaras about their good fortune, for the Kumaras are always auspicious by dint of their life in celibacy. Since they are always engaged on the path of liberation, there is no question of ill fortune. In other words, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas who are strictly following the path of spiritual advancement are always fortunate. The question was asked by Prithu Maharaj for his own sake, since he was in the position of a grahastha and in charge of the royal authority. Kings are not only grahasthas who are generally absorbed in sense gratification, but are sometimes employed to kill animals in hunting because they have to practice the killing art. Otherwise, it is very difficult for them to fight their enemies. Such things are not auspicious. 4 kinds of sinful activities associating with the women for illicit sex, eating meat, intoxication, and gambling are allowed for the Kshatriyas. For political reasons, sometimes they have to take to these sinful activities. Kshatriyas do not refrain from gambling. One vivid example is the Pandavas. When the Pandavas were challenged by the opposite party, Duryodhan, to gamble and to risk their kingdom, they could not refrain, and by that gambling they lost their kingdom and their wife was insulted. Similarly, the Kshatriyas cannot refrain from fighting if challenged by the opposite party. Therefore, Prithu Maharaj, taking consideration of all these facts, inquired whether there is any auspicious path. Grahastha life is inauspicious because Grahastha means consciousness for sense gratification. And as soon as there is sense gratification, one's position is always full of dangers. This material world is said to be padam padam yad vipadam na tesam, dangerous in every step. Bhagavatam 10.14.58. Everyone in this material world is struggling hard for sense gratification. Clearing all the points, Maharaja Prithu inquired from the 4 Kumaras about the fallen conditioned souls who are rotting in this material world due to their past bad or inauspicious activities. Is there any possibility for their auspicious spiritual life? In this verse, the word Indriyartha Artha Vedinam is very significant. It indicates persons whose only aim is to satisfy the senses. They are also described as Patitanam or fallen. Only one who stops all activities for sense gratification is considered to be elevated. Another significant word is Swakarmabhi, one who becomes fallen by dint of his own past bad activities. Everyone is responsible for his fallen condition because of his own activities. When activities are changed to devotional service, one's auspicious life begins. Hare Krishna.
And this discussion continues in the next verse also. We'll first read and then come back. Kalyani able to read 14 translation purport or Srila Prabhu?
Correct, Prabhu. 14 translation. Prithu Maharaj continued, my dear sirs, there is no need to ask about your good and bad fortune because you're always absorbed in spiritual bliss. The mental concoction of the auspicious and inauspiciousness does not exist in you. Purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya-lila 4.176, it is said, Dvaite Bhadra Gnana Sabha Manodharma E Bhala E Manda E Sabha Brahma. In this material world, the auspicious and inauspicious are simply mental concoctions because such things exist only due to association with the material world. This is called illusion or Atma Maya. We think ourselves created by material nature exactly as we think ourselves experiencing so many things in a dream. The spirit soul, however, is always transcendental. There is no question of becoming materially covered. This covering is simply something like a hallucination or a dream. In Bhagavad Gita 2.62, it is also said, Sangat sanjayate kamaha. Simply by association, we create artificial material necessities. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate. When we forget our real constitutional position and wish to enjoy the material resources, our material desires manifest and we associate with varieties of material enjoyment. As soon as the concoctions of material enjoyment are there, because of our association, we create a sort of lust or eagerness to enjoy them. And when that false enjoyment does not actually make us happy, we create another illusion known as anger. And by the manifestation of anger, the illusion becomes stronger. When we are illusioned in this way, forgetfulness of our relationship with Krishna follows. And by thus losing Krishna consciousness, our real intelligence is defeated. In this way, we become entangled in this material world. In Bhagavad Gita 2.63, it is said, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammoha smriti vibramaha, smriti bramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. By material association, we lose our spiritual consciousness. Consequently, there is a question of the auspicious and inauspiciousness. But those who are Atma Rama or self-realized have transcended such questions. The Atma Ramas or self-realized persons gradually making further progress in spiritual bliss come to the platform of association with the Supreme Personality of God. That is the perfection of life. In the beginning, the Kumaras were self-realized impersonalists, but gradually they became attracted to the personal pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The conclusion is that for those who are always engaged in the devotional service of the personality of Godhead, the duality of auspicious and inauspicious does not arise. Prithu Maharaj is therefore asking about auspiciousness not for the sake of the Kumaras but for his own sake. Hare Krishna.
So, Maharaj Prithu did not ask the Kumaras about their good fortune because the Kumaras are always auspicious by dint of their life of celibacy and by being always engaged in spiritual activities. Because they were always on the path of liberation, there was no question of ill fortune. Therefore, he says that the mental concoction of auspicious and inauspicious does not exist for you Kumaras. Therefore, he does not ask about the welfare of or good fortune of the Kumaras. The last two verses for today, verse 15-16, are straightforward. Everybody has read. Whosoever wants to read 15-16 translations.
Hare Krishna. Please go ahead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Text 15. I am completely assured that personalities like you are the only friends for persons who are bathing in the fire of material existence. I therefore ask you how, in this material world, we can very soon achieve the ultimate goal of life. Text 16. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always anxious to elevate the living entities, who are his parts and parcels. And for their special benefit, the Lord travels all over the world in the form of self-realized persons like you. Thank you.
All right. Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, how do we how do we understand that meat eating and intoxication was allowed for Kshatriyas or even illicit sex?
So we have discussed this in Canto 1, the chapter where Arjuna returns from Dwarka, and Yudhishthira asks, did you reject a woman? And in that purport, Prabhupada explains with the word consecration that Kshatriyas, yes, they are allowed to have multiple wives, but through religious principles. So we had discussed at that point that instead of Kshatriyas having illicit relations, because they are in so much passion, what was allowed back then was they can keep multiple wives to satisfy their passionate needs. The key word there in that purport we discussed was consecration. So yes, here Prabhupada is talking about illicit. It's not so not in isolation, but understand that what Kshatriyas were allowed was to have multiple wives, married wives, not illicit relations. And killing of animals also we have discussed someplace in Bhagavatam that Kshatriyas to maintain their kingdom, they sometimes have to fight and kill the opponents. So they have to be practiced with that killing endeavor, and therefore they are allowed to kill. Not to kill randomly, but just for the purpose of killing. So this will come up here in Canto 4 later on with the allegory explanation of Purunjana, where Narad Muni will show by his mystic power to the King Puranjana, or to King Prachinibharisa, that what was the result of the king killing the animals randomly. So all those animals were waiting to get back to the king. So you have to understand what was properly allowed. So there will be kings who follow the rules properly, and then there will be kings who will misuse their power. So you have to understand and follow dharmic kings like Yudhishthira and Parikshit Maharaj, who set the examples for us to follow. Abhishek Prabhu.
Here, killing, eating, like killing animals is it's same as eating meat.
No, it's not the same. Killing is just so that they are prepared to fight. It's not the same. They are just killing the animals just for their learning the art of killing. That on itself does not equate eating. Yes, those who are kings in position of power, they end up eating also, but then they get the consequences. So it's, if you follow Yudhishthira and Parikshit Maharaj, nowhere it says that they ate meat. Yes, they are Kshatriyas, but they are devotees. So yes, Arjuna did go to kill together with Krishna also to learn the art of killing, but not to eat. Abhishek Prabhu.
Thank you. Sir.
All right, spiritual endeavor questions. Number 1. What is the chief concern of a Vaishnava? Comes from chapter 21, text 47. Number 2, why did Prithu Maharaj not ask the Kumaras about their good fortune. Comes from chapter 22, verses 13 to 15. For next class, read Canto 4, rest of chapter 22 if you have not already read, plus read chapter 23 also. So as I explained at the start of the class that this Monday, December 1st is the auspicious Gita Jayanti day. If possible, everyone should please try to attend the reading of entire Bhagavad Gita at your respective temples, either in person or virtually. Here in Toronto, it's going to be from 6 p.m. onwards till about 9 p.m. So try your best. It's very auspicious to read the whole Bhagavad Gita and Devotee Association on Gita Jayanti Day. We're just about at 12 noon Toronto time. We'll stop here. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.